We are recording, you can speak.
Okay, well, I didn't know if you were gonna fucking do something, but yeah, so, hi, I am very tired from work, so we're probably gonna have a lot of pausing and forgetting where the fuck I was, saying anything, so let's just get into it.
Well, you were
Um,
high the last time, so...
I was high and tired, now I'm just tired. Because I do smoke at work, but that's a different story altogether. Um, but yeah, so picking up where we left off last time, just to recap a bit, so I started working downtown, as I explained. That's kind of a big deal around here, but so I started working downtown when I was 16, and the place I was working at was a real fucking shithole. At the time, because it was a new restaurant, everyone was just like enthralled by it. So they didn't see, and they still to this day, most people don't see the problem with it unless you work there. But the place was like, because I worked in the basement, so not only was all of our equipment secondhand salvage from other restaurants that the owners ran and managed and whatnot, because how they did their thing was they would liquidate restaurants. They would buy it up for cheap, gut it for everything it's worth, and then basically flip it into a new restaurant or a new business, and all that equipment went to us most of the time. So that's what we were stuck with. On top of that, I worked in a basement that was infested with black mold, mice, flies, cockroaches. The fucking plumbing system to the toilets upstairs would leak and break down and spill into the basement, and that's where I had to work.
So just all-around horrible conditions, then.
Yeah, and that's also where we did all the prep for the rest of the kitchens.
Oh my god.
And all the private parties, like if someone booked a wedding reception or something, which we would do. Sometimes we'd see up to 100 parties a month.
Holy shit.
And all the prep for those parties, and all the cooking, and all the, like when the party was going on, and we were sending up hot plates of food and shit. It was all coming from the kitchen downstairs in the basement where all this was going on.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, and the health department knew about it, but the fucking restaurant bribed them to look the other way.
So I'm assuming this is the place you were talking about in the last video that said, like, if you mentioned specifically who they were, they could sue you into oblivion.
Oh yeah. And not only did they bribe the health department, they bribed the fire department as well. The fire marshal himself came down and saw that the only fire exit from the basement that did not include the stairs leading up to the first floor, which is by law, basic logic and law, not constituting a fire escape, so you need a direct exit to the outside of the building, which they blocked off when they were putting an addition on the building, thus rendering our escape in a fire pretty much impossible.
So the place was a fucking death trap, then.
On top of that, the only fire extinguisher was outside the kitchen. So the way they had it set up, right, is that it was, the kitchen was like 20 feet long by like 10 feet wide. So it was this long rectangular room. In fact, it was never supposed to be a kitchen. It was actually intended to just be a storage room that they converted into a kitchen, which broke health code, and that's where the whole health code, or the health department part, came in. Because after 3 years, they found it, and they're like, okay. And so that continued on. And then they got permission to put an addition on the building, thus doubling it. So they started working on the back. The first thing they did was they stripped up the driveway and blocked off the cellar door that led to the basement. That was our fire escape. And at the bottom of those stairs was a fire extinguisher, right? Mm-hmm. The only issue with that is the entrance to the kitchen was about 15 feet away in the other direction. And on top of that, right at the entrance of the kitchen was the oven. So basically what all that meant is that
if that shit caught fire, you're walking through it to get to the fire extinguisher, if I'm getting this correctly.
Yeah, but the way that would work is because it was also an unfinished basement, so all the beaming and the wiring and all the, studs and stuff, it was all exposed. So should the oven catch fire, which it had a couple of times, it could easily spread, thus preventing us from leaving the kitchen, and we would basically suffocate or burn to death.
So the place was a literal fucking death trap.
It was one bad accident away from becoming an actual crime scene.
Jesus.
Like I said, I don't know if I've said it to you, but I've said to other people that it's a literal miracle that no one died as a result of working there or eating there.
And this place is still open.
This place is still open and considered one of the nicest restaurants in my city.
Jesus Christ.
And further segueing into another part of that shithole is that the meat slicer, the health inspector one time was quoted as calling it a murder weapon or
Jesus.
potential murder weapon because of how dirty it was.
If I remember correctly, actually, in the town I used to live, there was a KFC that got shut down because reportedly they had not cleaned any of their equipment in like 10 years.
Yeah, that was basically this place. On top of that, there was rat piss and rat shit everywhere all over the equipment.
That's fucking disgusting.
Cockroaches everywhere, flies. Like I said, it was all over the food. It was in the prep spaces. It was like everywhere. There was no escaping. It was in my lungs. It was on my clothes. It was in my hair, on my skin.
Man, if I ever come to visit you, you're gonna have to fucking point this place out to me so I can stay the hell away.
I will gladly do so. And this place hosted the likes of fucking Billy Joel, fucking Neil Patrick Harris twice.
Jesus.
The second time we had to kick him out though because he was breaking dress code. Who else? Bill Cosby before the whole sex scandal allegation thing. And all three of those guys were in the time that I was working there. So I prepped food or cooked dinner that these guys ate at some point. Though I don't have any confirmation that the dish I made myself went directly to them, but I know that I, handled the food that would eventually go to them.
It's shocking considering the status of that place. That the standards were so low.
That's not even the fucking half of it. I worked there for 5 years. Okay. 5 years of my life, I was slaved away in that fucking place. I met some crazy motherfuckers there, though, man. Oh man, the shit that I saw there, the people that I met, oh my god. I could never, well, actually, I could replicate it very easily, but I don't think I would want to. Actually, some people, yeah. Some people know. Like, the girls, oh, yeah. 100% would do it again. I would fucking do that again in a heartbeat. But god damn it, dude. Oh, man, the girls downtown, man. Hot damn. Best fucking in town, But, more on that another time. So, but yeah, I worked with some crazy guys. There was a lot of Guatemalans, Jamaicans. My head chef was a fucking cokehead and an alcoholic. One of the chefs who, moved somewhere else, he was a coke dealer. He used to sell coke to the other guys at work. Everyone was selling weed to each other. We had a guy peddling dab pens at work. Fucking,
So drugs seem to just be ingrained into the DNA of your area.
Not my area, my industry, right? Mm-hmm. The cooking industry, being a chef, working in a kitchen, working in a restaurant, there are three things that lay the foundation of that. There are three things that keep that industry running. That's sex, drugs, and alcohol. It's like the modern day rock and rollers, because a lot of them were like a lot of the guys that are running most of, if any kitchen you go into nowadays, I mean any kitchen, any fucking kitchen across the country or the world even. 90% of the guys running those kitchens right now, whether it's the head chef or the owner, they were in their prime when Ozzy Osbourne still had a few brain cells left.
God damn.
So most of these guys, back in the day, it was cocaine, it was heroin, it was weed, it was ecstasy, LSD, shrooms. Everyone was on something, and they've never changed since. That's how I got into it. But I've
So
only
basically,
been,
if you didn't get your foot in the door in the food industry, you would not be Weesus Christ.
no, not at all. No. When I was in high school, I was so straight edge, and then I got into the food industry, and that all went up in smoke. No pun intended.
Would you say you regret it then, or?
Not a day in my life, no. I mean, there are some things about being a chef that I 100% regret and I wish I didn't do, you know, in the sense of I wish I didn't become a chef because of X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's done me so much good that I don't have a single regret when it comes to other things. Like my whole family, like my mom's brothers, all 6 of them, my brother, my dad, they've all worked in, my mom even, but she was only just a waitress, but you know, all my uncles were bartenders. My brother was a chef and a bartender and a restaurant owner. He still is a bartender. He's done so many things. My dad was a baker and a bartender and a fucking bouncer and shit. So my whole life, in fact, my whole family's existence of the past 40 plus years has revolved almost entirely around the restaurant industry. So it was kind of inevitable that I would find my way into it, even though all of them told me not to. And I said, fuck you, I'm going to anyway. Fucking, so yeah, from there, you know, and like I said, I met some crazy fucking people while I was there. Like, I worked with my teacher, the one I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with him there the first year we were open, and then I worked with his brother there the second and third year we were open, all the way up until the last year, actually. Actually, no, I worked with my teacher the first 2 years, and then I worked with his brother the last 2 years. The third year, we had this girl. She was, well, I say girl in the sense that she was, you know, she was like early 40s-ish. She was a MILF. She was a hippie MILF, my dude. Even though I don't think she had any... No, she wasn't a MILF, she was a cougar.
Oh, Jesus.
I get the two confused because they're both the same age range, but one has kids, one doesn't. But no, she was a total cougar, dude. She was a hippie cougar, too. Oh, my stupid 17-year-old ass was in all over that shit.
Oh, my God.
Actually, no,
dude.
Man, she was a fucking trip and a half. It was to the, we were so like all over each other all the time that it got to the point where the head chef thought there was something going on between us.
Was there?
No, I wish there was. I mean, honestly, if I had played my cards right and been a little bit more upfront and, you know, kind of assertive, because I was a huge pushover back then, so I didn't really know how to like speak up and shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as well as I
didn't have the confidence of current day Weezus.
No, me and 5 years ago Weezus are two completely different people. I eat my past self and spit him out for breakfast. And that's saying a fucking ton. Like how much I've changed since high school, which I graduated in 2014. So the past 6 years, dude. Oh my God, it's like a complete 180. I'm like, I'd be unrecognizable to most people that I went to high school with. You know, both physically and, you know, personality-wise. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that they can, you know, the fact that I'm even talking in complete sentences fluently. Well, I use that last one loosely because anyone who's listening to this already figured out that I can't hold it, you know. My sentences fit together about as well as an autistic puzzle piece. You know, this just, you know, square peg in a round hole. But going back to what we were talking about before, I'll call her, Amber, because her name begins with an A, and I don't feel like coming up with it.
I remember, sorry to hold that, but there was one person you were talking about in the last video who I think you gave them like 4 different names.
Who was that?
I can't remember. I think it was the first ex you were talking about.
Probably, bro. Bro, there's so many things I forgot to mention in the last video. Like,
I know, we'll have to...
the last video should have been like twice as long as it was.
Oh yeah, but I don't think my internet can handle uploading something that long.
Oh, no, not at all. But I'm saying, like, there's so many things I forgot to mention when I was talking about, you know, the exact subject matter that was. Like, for example, my ex, I mentioned that she was a Satanist. What I didn't mention is she tried to run away with the carnival while we were still dating.
That would have been something to bring up, yeah.
Again, I was very out of it in the last video. But yeah, no, she tried to run away with the carnival. So every summer, there's like this traveling carnival that comes to town and sets up on the beach. It's like a yearly thing. It's been going on for decades. So everyone, you know, just thinks nothing of it when it comes to town, aside from, hey, the carnival's in town. My ex sees the carnival and it's like, hey, way out of this shitty fucking, you know, place. Even though she had it fucking fantastic here, aside from a shitty home life. But even still, so her bright idea at the ripe age of 16 was to, or like 16 going on 17. Frankly, my memory is a bit hazy because I don't even remember when we started dating or how old we were, but I know it was like the second to last year of high school. But anyway, so she wasn't even 18 yet. And she tried to, first of all, she was missing for the entire weekend because she was hiding away at her friend's place and did not tell me. I only found out because as I was on my way to work, her stepfather ringed me up on my phone and was like, hey, have you seen, you know, so-and-so? She hasn't been home all weekend. I'm like, no. And, you know, that whole day I'm just like freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, my girlfriend's been kidnapped and murdered somewhere. Like, you know, that's a very reasonable, you know, thought. Also, I don't think I mentioned before that she was also very seen. Like, I don't know if you know what that means.
Oh God. And so with all the, and you still made the conscious decision to get involved with this girl.
Yes. Have you met me? Dude, my weakness is seeing goth punk chick girls or whatever, you know, that, her whole shtick before I found out she was 50 Shades of Nuts, you know, I was like, fucking sign me up, man. You know, like, I can take a little bit of crazy, but she was like, she was like an actual, like, actually mental, like, but yeah, so she tried to run away with the circus. She went there and was like, you know, like, so her stepfather called me up and was like, hey, she's missing. I'm like, I don't know where she is. So I was freaking out all day. You know, 3 days later, you know, they find her at the carnival, like on the beach, trying to basically solicit herself out to all the different carnies, you know.
Oh God.
Not in that way.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Would not surprise me in the absolute least. However, yeah, so the cops found her and tried to take her in so they could take her down to the station so her parents could just come pick her up because they, obviously, to them, she's a missing child and they need to, you know, bring her home. So what does she try to do? She tries to fight the cops in the parking lot.
Oh, Jesus.
So she ended up spending a night in county jail. And then about like a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, we broke up. Yeah, so that was that. Yeah, no, so she was to recap, so she was goth, scene, whatever. She was a Satanist, tried to run away with the carnival after being reported missing for 3 days. Or they found her trying to run away with the carnival, say, after being reported missing for 3 days. Because she was hiding out at her friend's place, or a mutual friend of ours, who neither of them opted to tell me this. Probably because I knew that I would call the cops and foil their plans, which I would have, like any sane person. She also tried to get me to wear guy liner.
Oh God!
Which, if you don't know what that is it's eyeliner for men, And the reason it's for men is because normal eyeliner would irritate men's eye glands, you know, since it's made specifically for women.
Mm-hmm.
So all the fucking, you know, goth dudes and shit out there that want to wear makeup have to, you know, can buy guy liner. And she wanted to make me goth. She got me to wear all black for about, you know, half a week, so like 3 or 4 days. And then she tried to take it a step further by saying, "Hey, let's put some guy liner on you." That's where I actually managed to put my foot down.
I'm trying to picture you in like full fucking goth makeup and outfit, and it is kind of the funniest fucking thing ever.
See, that's the thing though, is you don't know what I looked like back then.
True.
And
I know what you look like now. I don't know what you
what
look
I
like
look
back
like,
then.
imagine me now, bright, but with completely like baby skin smooth face,
Oh
like
my
not a
God.
single, not even not one follicle on my face, no stubble, just completely like pane of glass smooth skin on my face, aside from acne, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And short hair, like buzz cut short hair. Well, not super like shaved off, but like
Very short. So like,
very short compared to what it is now. Like this is the longest I've ever had it.
mm-hmm.
You know, I tended to keep it like a crew cut, like a military, like, you know, just buzz cut, you know, that sort of thing. So you can imagine that I was a very hairless child for the most part.
Okay, picturing that makes it even fucking funnier.
And I was also super straight edge, so I wore, you know, like your basic, like I looked like I looked like I walked out of a fucking Sears catalog. So I had like the fucking like white like Nike sneakers with fucking blue jeans and like a polo shirt.
So
That's
basically,
like,
you were like the stereotypical like poster child for a white kid.
yeah, yeah. And now I'm walking around in black jeans, combat boots, band tees, sweatshirts. I got hair almost past my neck. You know, I got a goatee that at one point I've shaved it back because of work, but I'm trying to grow it back. But at one point it was almost down to my chest, like 6-7 inches long.
Damn.
You know, I got rings on every finger. Fucking, you know, I smoke pot like it's going out of style. You know, I drink I drink more alcohol than I do water or juice or tea or literally anything. Like I have 30 bottles of beer next to me.
Yeah, you fucking posted a picture of that in the fucking Discord the other night.
Bro, the girl at the fucking liquor store just gave me the dirtiest fucking look when I walked up with all that shit. Bro, she literally like looked me in the eye as she like scanned my ID after looking at it because she didn't say anything. She barely said a word.
She just gave you that look where, like, she's silently judging you.
She was judging me, not even silently, dude. If she could, she would say so many things because she just radiated this aura of, there is no fucking way you're 21, and there's no fucking way this is just for you.
Well, you're like 24, aren't you?
I'm 24, and yes, it was just for me.
You know what's funny is
So fuck you, lady.
I'm 21. I don't even get carded at the fucking liquor store anymore because of how often I'm there.
I hate you so much because fuck you, okay? I look like a child in real life. Like, when I have my mask up because of fucking COVID, you know, like, I got mistaken for a girl the other day.
Yeah, I remember you were fucking saying that.
Bro, the dude walked up behind me. He's like, "Excuse me, miss, can you help me find this?" And I turn around and it's like in the most manly way, the deepest voice I could muster. I'm like, "It's down that way, sir." The look on his face. Oh my god.
Oh my god, that must have been fucking priceless.
Oh, it was great, but it's like in a way I'm like, do I really look like that? Like, now I'm curious, like, what's gonna happen when I really start growing my hair out?
I mean,
because right now I just look like fucking, oh, what was his name? My god, it'll come to me. Fucking, he's a member of the 28 Club. Jim Morrison.
a little bit, yeah.
You're right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he grew out his beard more and had like thicker hair.
Yeah, thinking
Like,
about it, yeah, there's a fucking resemblance.
bro, yeah, no, I have straight up, I literally have Jim Morrison's haircut. Now, just give him a thick, bushy fucking goatee like you'd find on fucking Jesus. Oh my god. Yeah, like his fucking, oh my god. That's that's creepy how much you look like Jim
Yeah, you
Morrison.
look like a cross between Jim Morrison and Jesus.
I look like a cross between Jim Morrison and Charles Manson.
If you want to talk about someone who looks like fucking Charles Manson, you have to admit, Dust looks like fucking Charles Manson.
Dust looks like fucking Charles Manson and uh, George Armstrong Custer's love child. Have you seen a picture of Custer? Because I know you're Canadian, so you might
No,
not
I-
even know who that is.
I actually,
He
I
was
have no idea who that is.
He was a Civil War general. He
Okay,
was
so I do know who that is. Never mind.
Yeah, no, he was the one responsible for like the Battle of Little Bighorn.
Mm-hmm.
But he had like he was known for his like long blonde hair and his like baby blue eyes and his like awesome fucking mustache. He like him and Dust have like the same like style mustache where it's like the little elongated soul patch with like the big like Manchu mustache.
Mm-hmm. And then there's me, who like my facial hair is just a shit show.
See, you just might not have good genes for it. But
I
you
don't.
Can, like, okay, so here's I'm gonna like take a break from the stories just so we can like shoot the shit a little because we can always keep doing this or whatever. But
yeah, I have like no problem splitting this up into 2 parts if need be.
oh yeah, no doubt. Or just just have me going on until people demand me to get off.
Well, people seem to like the last one, so
Yeah, so I was gonna say like I doubt that it'll happen. But anyway, so for those of you out there that might struggle with growing facial hair, like let's assume that your genes don't prevent you from just outright growing it because there are some people, who just simply cannot grow facial hair. That is just a simple fact of life for them. Like it will never change and there's no amount of supplements or anything that will change that. And I had a friend like that, and it drove him up a fucking wall because he really wanted a beard, but it just would not happen. But anyway, so let's assume that you're struggling with it, right? So the first thing that you need to change is your diet and skin care. So what I mean by skin care, and I'll get to the diet in a second, but skin care specifically because the pores on your face, in addition to being clogged and causing acne, can get clogged and prevent hairs from properly growing in. So if you keep your face properly washed, fleshed out, take long hot showers, don't be afraid to go into the beauty section of the fucking grocery store and just fill your cart up with every manner of creams and topicals and shit. Who cares if the girl at the store is going to judge you for it? Maybe she won't. She probably wants to kill herself anyway, just like every other person in working customer service, and you fucking know it.
well,
Shut
there goes
up.
any hope of ever getting my channel monetized. Thank you.
You're welcome. Plus, it'll be one video. Who cares?
I can feel Susan has the gun pointed at my channel already.
Look, man, I don't know if my mic was cutting out like crazy in the last video, but I was trying to say before, I think this came up, that if that happens, you can just have my old one that I don't use. Or whatever, I'll just make one and give it to you type of thing. But anyway, yeah, so keep your face fucking clean, like super clean. Like don't go nuts, obviously, because, I shouldn't have to explain myself. Just keep your fucking face clean first and foremost. But proper shampooing and conditioning, to stimulate facial growth or facial hair growth, There are things like beard oil that you can put on your face and on the hair once it starts growing in. And if you already have a beard, it's good for maintaining it. It keeps it shiny, keeps it from tangling. You only need a couple drops and you can do your whole face, and it'll come in like a little 1 ounce bottle. The more expensive, the better. I personally feel that I don't necessarily feel that way about a lot of things, but this time, yes, because there's a lot of cheap shit out there and there's a lot of good shit out there. The good shit's usually expensive. Diet, things like beans and legumes, salmon, meats, anything that's high in protein, like natural meat-based protein, is good for stimulating facial hair growth. I've found with myself, peanuts, cashews, things like that. So you don't have to like change a terrible lot, but it is good to add. It helps. I don't know what it is. I assume it's the proteins, but I found when I was like in high school, like 17 through 21, that age range, when my facial hair was coming in, but it wasn't like, it was kind of missing something. I started eating more nuts and beans and meat and shit, and my facial hair just exploded. Or I noticed that anytime I shaved and then ate a lot of those things, that my facial hair would come in super fast, or faster than, without it. So that's what I use. Obviously results may vary, but it's, better than nothing because those things are still good for you anyway. A little ASMR there for you. Now, if you have a beard already, such as myself, or even you, Crazy, fit from this, because
I actually I do maintain my skin and everything, and I maintain actually that exact diet you were talking about. With me, my problem is genetics.
Yeah, it is genetics, and that's always going to, that's just going to be a fact of life for some people. But one thing you can do to help, stimulate growth or whatever, or make it look better for what it is proper shampooing and conditioning, putting in, there's like, I have beard shampoo, beard conditioner, beard oil, and beard butter, all of which have a specific purpose. And then I have a beard comb and a beard brush. And again, each one having a specific purpose and duality, so the beard conditioner and beard shampoo, they're shampoo and conditioner, but it's specifically designed with facial hair in mind, as opposed to, normal body hair or even head hair, because of the way the follicles are built and structured. It's why facial hair takes longer to grow than other places, and why it grows the way it does, and that sort of, there's a whole science behind it. So believe it or not all body hair is created equal. Hair on your legs will grow differently than hair on your arms, and hair on your face will grow differently than hair on your head. And all of that gets taken into account. And so a lot of men's beauty aisles will have, beard balm, beard butter, beard oil, beard conditioner, beard shampoo, and it can be very confusing. But I suggest getting beard butter if you can find it. It's basically like this cream that you smear and comb into your beard, and it helps soften it up and basically makes it nice and lush and thick, and it basically makes it look nice. So like it'll take real frizzy, mangled beard and make it, photo finish. Just like that. Kind of like coconut oil for your hair, but it doesn't make it curly. It just makes it like nice and voluptuous.
God, we took such a massive detour from what we were originally talking about.
Welcome to my brain. It's a miracle I get anything done. now you know why it takes me so long to write things.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you were talking about that cougar chick that you were working with.
Oh, that's right. Because yeah, so fucking Amber was that's her fake name, by the way. Amber oh man. So the thing about Amber is that because she is the reason I call her a hippie is because she just had that like free love flower child vibe to her,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s anyway. So like for example, one time she tried to get me to go skinny dipping with her.
Oh God.
Yeah. I won't go into detail. I didn't go with her because I was too much of a pussy back then. So she tried to get one of the waiters to go with her, and he pussied out too. I don't know why. Because he was like 10 years older than me. But either way,
Man, fucking present day you must want to just bitch slap past you, huh?
bro, I want to do so many things to my past self. Like, you stupid motherfucker. She got me to sing karaoke with her at the employee after summer party. The first year we were open, or the first year we held one. That was interesting. That's the night I became an alcoholic. I'm not joking. That was the night. That was the night I discovered that, man, alcohol is great. Because I had a whole, like, they had red Solo cups, which are about 16 ounces, 16 fluid ounces. I had 2 of those that night of sangria that they had
Holy
on the
shit.
that they had on the table. One before I had one and I finished nearly all of it by the time she literally dragged me, like she had my arm in her hands and forcibly dragged me through the room onto the stage to sing karaoke with her. And after I completely butchered the like we're talking like Hannibal Lecter crossed with Leatherface, butchered the crap out of Summer Lovin' from Greece.
Oh God.
I marched my ass directly to the drink table and poured myself another cup. And I almost fell down the stairs leaving too.
So you were just blind drunk at that point.
Oh, I was so lit, dude. Like, to the point where my dad, like, the first thing he said to me besides, hey, son, how you doing, when I got in the car was, have you been drinking tonight? You
And
could smell the
you were
wine on
not
my...
21 at that point, were you?
I was like 16. Are you kidding me? I was like a month away from turning 17. Actually, no, I had just turned 17. A couple months prior. That's what I meant. Yeah, no, but I was nowhere near the drinking age. I wasn't even out of high school yet.
That's one of the perks of Canada is we're allowed to buy alcohol at 19.
Yeah, no, see, that's the thing, is it used to be 18 here, like when my mom was a kid, because she was born in June, she would, back then in her, school district or whatever, they wouldn't get out till July or so, every summer, and then they'd go back in, October or something, so, so she was always the first one in her class or her social circle to, she was the first one to turn 18. So at the time, that meant that she could buy cigarettes and she could buy alcohol. So guess who was always running to the liquor store after class? They had a saying back then, the one that I still try to use with my friends today, even though a lot of them don't pick up on the meaning of it. It's called, if you fly, I'll buy, basically saying, if you take us there, I'll pay for it. So, and she has a bunch of stories about her friends. They all had nicknames back then anyway. So, like, one of her friends, his name was Goon, Goon. One time they went to the local convenience store, and he bought a bottle of Mountain Dew. And this was back when they came in the glass bottles.
Yeah.
And he bought a bottle of Mountain Dew. except it wasn't Mountain Dew. Can you take a guess as to what was in this bottle that he had just pulled out of the cooler, paid for it, and was now drinking on the sidewalk?
Most definitely something alcoholic.
No.
Oh my god, I vaguely remember something like, did that and antifreeze not look extraordinarily similar?
It's not antifreeze. This was like back in the late 70s.
Okay, so then what was it? Because I'm at a loss for what it could possibly be here.
Pee.
What?
So, yeah, someone took a bottle of Mountain Dew, drank it, kept the empty bottle, filled it with piss, filled it with their piss, capped it, and put it back in the cooler and let someone buy it.
Oh my god!
And that is the reason my mom didn't drink Mountain Dew for the next 30 years.
Oh my god, could you... That would be fucking awful!
Yeah. And this is the same, like, there was, like, a small chain of them, like, in, you know, the area, like, within the city, and the outer city area. So there's, like, 4 or 5, you know, locations at the time. I don't know how big they ever got or how small or whatever, but in their area, there was, like, 4 or 5 of them. This was one, and that another, my uncle, her brother, so, you know, my mom and her brother, same chain, different locations. So my mom watched her friend buy a bottle of piss unknowingly and drink part of it, spit it out, throw it on the ground, you know, that sort of thing, you know, like you do. And then her brother worked with 2 guys at the store. One was openly gay, and the other was not. And, you know, the gay guy and her brother, you know, my mom's brother, my uncle,
Yep.
They were just normal employees, and then the manager was straight. And the gay guy would constantly hit on the manager, trying to, you know, get him in his pants. And the manager always pushed him away and was like, no, not. It's like, look, man, you're gay, I get it, but I don't swing that way. You know, and he would just constantly, relentlessly push the guy to his, you know, absolute limit. Until one day the guy snapped, right?
Mm-hmm.
He killed the guy in the store.
Holy fuck.
Right? And he disposed of the body in the meat grinder they used to make sausages.
Fuck. Okay, that took a turn that I was not expecting.
Yeah, neither did that guy. Yeah, so, and the guy's still in prison for it, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. I would assume doing something like that would probably get you life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was premeditated first murder, or it was first-degree murder. Completely premeditated. Granted, but the only reason the guy didn't get the death penalty is because, because my mom grew up in a different state. For the sake of ambiguity, I won't say which one, but that particular state, then as now, does not have the death penalty, so he wasn't able to receive capital punishment, even though first-degree murder constitutes it, especially something like that. But he was actually acquitted due to reason of insanity, because he had a mental breakdown which caused him to do it. But that segues me into another story of a similar caliber. Just a FYI, the video where I talk about my island, you might want to make just like a separate channel just specifically for that, because that's sure to get demonetized.
I don't have dude, my channel doesn't even qualify for monetization.
Okay, well, it certainly won't after that video, because my island's history is completely saturated in blood and sex.
Shit. I almost rear-ended a bus there.
Yeah, like, think Wild West, you know, like Tombstone and shit, like, you know, gunslingers and crap, but, you know, with the ocean instead.
So your fucking island is pretty hardcore then.
It was, yeah. We were like the Port Royal of the North, essentially. We had, way back in the colonial era, we had Blackbeard, Thomas Tew, Captain Kidd, Bartholomew Roberts, fucking like every big name pirate of the era. Not only visited my island, but frequented my island.
God damn, that's fucking cool.
You know, uh, I live. I mean, technically, my whole island is a Revolutionary War battleground, but there's a specific site called. Well, I wish I could say. You know what? Fuck it. I'll say the name because most of the people watching this already know what state I live in. But it's called the Battle of Rhode Island, so I live in Rhode Island. There you go. That's all you're getting out of me. Fucking. Normally I'd be more open about this, but after everything I've talked about, you can understand why I wouldn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, the Battle of Rhode Island took place on my island, and it basically happened because the reason Rhode Island is called Rhode Island is because at the time my island was Rhode Island, to the state as it is today was the Providence Plantations because it was all farmland.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my island was of strategic military importance, which is why there was a battle fought over it, or more like an attempted battle turned just straight up massacre. Because what happened was the colonial forces under George Washington's command, along with someone else whose name I can't remember, I think it was Rochambeau. Yes, that's a real person, not just a hand game. In fact, his headquarters is downtown, not far from where I used to work, or what was his headquarters during the war. But the two of them led a battalion of troops, mostly, just regular men with guns who knew how to fight, not really skilled or anything. It was just your, normal regiment at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They led them from the north part of the island where I live, marched them all the way down, and they were supposed to engage the British troops which were stationed at the south end of the island, who were backed up by the Royal Navy, who basically had the entire south end of the bay on both sides of the island blocked off. So they had an effective blockade on the rest of the state because it's kind of like a V shape but upside down. So, that you have two ways, like my island sits in the middle of, this giant V that cuts into the state,
Mm-hmm.
and then, so think of like a capital A, and then my island is like square right in the middle in between the two legs.
Right.
And so the Royal Navy had both ends blocked off. So the only way through the blockade was, by land essentially, right up my island. And so they came down from the north to engage the ground troops stationed there, who they were backed up by the Royal Navy, and the French Navy was supposed to come in, take care of, so it was supposed to be a dual land and sea battle. The French taking on the Royal Navy in the water, and then we would take on the British on land and fight them simultaneously. But what ended up happening was we got down there only to find out the French abandoned us because they were like, I don't think this is a good idea. So they pulled out at the last minute.
Typical French
left
behavior.
us. Yeah, right, honestly.
That was a joke, don't get offended.
I'm not doing the French any favors with this story, but frankly, they brought it on themselves. So we marched down the island, find out the French completely fucked us. And so the British respond by completely rerouting us up the island, surrounding us on this ridge top, and just completely slaughtering it. And right where the slaughter took place is a monument with all the names listed of all the soldiers. And the interesting and kind of significant thing about this particular battle is that not only do almost no one around here even knows happened, which is sad in of itself, but what's even sadder is that the troops that fought, they made up the first all-black regiment in the entire United States history.
Damn.
So all the soldiers, they were all black, and actually a number of them were also Native American. There was almost the only white members of the entire fighting regiment. I think there's like 150 of them or so. Like maybe 5 of them were white, and they were all officers. George Washington being one of them. But it was the first all-colored regiment in the entire United States military history, and almost no one knows that even happened.
Yeah, the video where we actually go in depth onto the history of your island is going to be very interesting.
Dude, we're talking pirates, we're talking the mob, like smugglers during Prohibition. You got Gilded Age, like billionaires, like the Vanderbilts that I mentioned before.
Yep.
Now that I have time to kind of delve into that a bit more without going completely crazy. I recently watched a video on them, and I had always known that they were rich, or they are still ranked today as being among the richest families ever in American history. They don't have any money anymore, but that's due to generations of them completely squandering it, But that's a story for another time. But at their height, right, when they built all the mansions and shit around here, the family had a net worth, I say net worth in the sense that technically this is what they were worth, but it's also what they had to throw around at the same time. Like, this was disposable income for them. Something to the tune of $172 billion.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, in today's money. Let me Google what Jeff Bezos, because I think he's only worth like 10 billion. Oh god, my hip just popped. Oh god.
Yeah, I got out of bed this morning and my entire body pretty much did that.
Welcome to my world, dude. Like, this has been going on for years now, and that's all thanks to working at that place that I was talking about before with the shitty basement shithole place. Another thing that I had to do there, in addition to cooking and prepping all the fucking crap in this shithole basement, is that I would receive, like, we would get deliveries of food, big boxes of crap, everything from, seafood to produce to frozen goods and paper goods and that sort of thing. We could see up to, $10,000 worth of product a day. And guess who was responsible for putting it all away?
I'm gonna guess you.
It was me, right? So we had a pantry completely separate by itself. Like, it was this big cage, like probably like 15 by 15, or yeah, at least 15 by 15 square feet. And then we had an entire hallway of the basement just for paper goods. And then we had a 15-foot walk-in. And then we had I think like 6 by 6 walk-in freezer as well. And that still wasn't enough to hold all this shit. So not only could some of these boxes weigh as much as 60 to 70 pounds, though most of them topped out at 50. There was just on occasion, they could get up to that weight. And that was just the boxes. And then the seafood deliveries, we would get, $4,000 or $5,000 worth of seafood a day. And they would come in these big black plastic tubs that were like 4.5 feet long, about 2.5 feet wide, 3 feet wide, and about 1.5 feet deep. And they'd be filled with fish, completely filled with fish in little, Tupperware and big Tupperware containers. We called them fish tubs. They were like, 8 by 14 inches or so, so about the size of like a textbook stacked, 2 stacked on top of each other.
Yep.
Thereabouts. And they'd be filled with these fish tubs and then packed over with ice. So these totes, could weigh as much as 300 or 400 pounds a piece. And I would lug these things across the basement with my bare hands. Like, I would just grab onto the side and just haul with all my body weight.
And how many of those would you have to do a day?
Oh god, on a really busy day, like at the height of the summer, like 10,
Oh my
15 maybe.
So you must
And
have just
that was,
been like, by the end of the day, just physically drained.
dude, I wanted to kill myself so many days. Like there was days where I genuinely thought I was gonna just drop dead from exhaustion on the stairs, like mid-flight. Like because not so, we kept a few of those totes around to use as storage, so we would slide them onto the shelf and keep them packed with ice, and we would just take from the tubs as we needed them, which is a very ingenious system in of itself when space is extremely limited as it was. You know, so theoretically it's a brilliant system. The only issue with it is that once the ice melts, the water's got to go somewhere. So it drains into a bottom bin of the same type. So we basically just stacked two on top of each other. One just has holes, one does not. So guess who had to drain the water of all this? Oh god, and the weight wasn't even the worst part. So not only was this like there's like probably 100 gallons of water or something along those, 50 to 100 gallons of water. So that alone weighs an extraordinary amount. Like I mean an obnoxious amount. And so not only that, but sometimes they wouldn't be changed for weeks on end. And because it's holding fish, so the ice would melt, seep into the fish bins, or the fish wouldn't be properly closed, and so eventually the ice would become saturated with fish juice and essence.
Oh, that's
and then
disgusting.
that would then melt into the drainage bin down below. So now you have this giant 100-gallon barrel of soup,
Blech.
of water and fish,
That's just fucking nasty.
and anything else that happened to fall into those bins from the other bins on top, because it was like it was wire metal shelving, kind of like at a tree store, and it wrapped around the entire inside of the walk-in. So you had all these bins of shit all over the fucking shelves, and so guys would be going in and out of these bins, taking stuff, scooping crap, this, that, blah, 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 and so the walk-in obviously gets very dirty. If it isn't already clear, I was the bitch boy of the entire restaurant as well as its janitor. So anytime something went awry, I was the one that had to go out and sort it. And that involved mopping, sweeping, wiping down literally every surface all the time, cleaning up spills. So the walk-in became my home, among many.
So you really got the short end of the stick in everything with that place, huh?
Words cannot describe the things that I had to endure there, because, well, frankly, I've drank and smoked enough to where I can't remember everything that I had to put up with because of what I had to put up with. Like, it was so stressful that I purposefully chose to lose brain cells. Yeah, so, giant totes of water that smelled like rotting fish. I would then have to drag through the basement and either do one of two things with them. I would have to drag them all the way across the basement, so I'd walk out of the walk-in, go about like 10 or 15 feet to the right, go through a walkway, take another right through past the ice machines, and keep going for like another 20 or 30 feet, take another right, and maneuver my way around. And all of these are around corners. This is a very tight basement. It's 80 plus years old. Hasn't been the same since the 40s. So you can imagine how tight these corners and stuff are with this giant like casket-sized tub of water that and so I would maneuver around all these corners. So about at least 20 or 30 yards worth of dragging this thing across the floor, or if I could muster it, carrying it to the mop sink that was also directly adjacent to the employee bathroom, which never got cleaned because no one cared. And that would also back over, flood over and shit. Like one time it got clogged and flooded and no one wanted to clean it, so we just blocked it off and left it like that for like almost a year.
That's fucking nasty.
I know. And the employee bathroom was right next to the prep kitchen that I told you about.
Jesus H. Christ.
Oh, and on top of that, the kitchen downstairs the one that we're talking about, the prep kitchen, that, you know, not only was it in the basement, all shit, figuratively and literally, and it didn't have a fire escape. It also had no proper ventilation system.
Oh my god, that's fucking...
So at the height of the summer, when we had an oven, a steamer, and 3 or 4 guys working in there at any given time, you know, it got up to, it would get so hot that we actually broke the wall. Like, the wall thermometer would be permanently stuck at 80 degrees, even though it probably got up to at least 100 with a humidity of like 1%.
Jesus.
Like, when I say humidity of 90%, I mean, it was literally like the humidity. There was clouds in the kitchen. Like, there was a literal mist that hovered at head level throughout the entire day.
It is horrifying that, like, fucking health and safety would just look the other way on that. Like...
It's amazing what hundreds of thousands of dollars can do.
Shit like this is part of the reason why I just don't go to restaurants.
And we tried to sue them after me and another guy. There was 2 guys down there. For their sake, I won't give them any names at all. But we tried to take them to court after one of them quit / got fired. He basically, you know, got fed up with, you know, how he was being treated, because they treated him the same way that they treated his brother, even though the head chef and the 2 of them had been friends and colleagues for 40 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just like constant backstabbing, constantly stepping on people to get to the top, you know, constantly trying to get your coworkers fired so you could get their position and get in the good graces of the owner and the management. You know, it was just a constant expectation to step on your fellow man in order to...
So it was, like, extremely cutthroat, basically.
Like, you know, Gordon Ramsay?
Oh, yeah.
Like, like the fucking Hell's Kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is exaggerated for TV, but a majority of it is real. Like, that's actually how chefs talk to each other. Like, that's actually how... Like, the guy that I worked for was basically Gordon Ramsay. Like, when he was, like... You know, when it was busy,
mm-hmm.
he went from, you know, he went from Bob Ross. Well, you know, he was never that. I wish he was that nice. This man threw a knife at my head.
I feel like that's a story worth telling.
Oh yeah, so I'm putting away boxes downstairs in the basement, like I was telling you before. And I hear him come down the stairs, so I didn't really think anything of it because the office is right next to where I was standing, so I just figured he was going to the office. And so, you know, I hear him coming down, and I hear him behind me, so I know he's there, but again, like I said, I'm not thinking anything of it because I don't have any reason to. It's just a normal day, it's just a normal situation. He comes behind me all the time, because that's how basements work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm bending over. I have my hands on a stack of boxes at my feet. I grab the box. I stand up. The minute, like the instant I get into a upright position to where like I'm just like perfectly upright, I hear this whoosh, and my eyes glance just like an inch to the side. And I see a knife sticking in the wall.
So, why did he throw a knife at your head?
I don't know. He didn't say anything. He just threw a knife at my head. And I turned around, and he just looked at me, and he walked away.
You must have been shitting yourself.
I kind of had a moment of like, oh my god. That could have been me. But the reason I didn't say anything to him, because aside from the fact that I just had a knife thrown at me, which already tells me in of itself, don't say anything.
Yeah, you don't really want to further antagonize this person.
Yeah, so not only was I already reluctant in of itself, just on face value, I already knew that this man had a history of, at that point, I'm pretty sure he was still doing it from time to time. I know he's clean now, but he used it, like, stemming all the way from the 80s. Had a horrible addiction to cocaine. And would also regularly drink at work. So there's a very likely chance that he was either high or exceptionally intoxicated in some way.
Or possibly both.
Well, intoxicated being
True.
a generic term, but yes. So that is further reason why I did not say anything and kind of just was like, okay, well, that was scary, but at least I'm still alive. At least there's not a knife in me.
Honestly, I think personally I would have quit that right fucking then.
See, I wanted to quit the first year I was there. I ended up doing 4 additional years because I couldn't find anywhere else to go. I didn't have enough work experience to go anywhere else in town. It's a miracle. It was just a luck of the draw chance that I got my job there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, for me, it's like, you are not paying me enough to put up with, like, having a fucking knife thrown at my head.
Oh, dude, there's the things that I put up with. I get paid $14 an hour now, which doesn't sound like a lot to some people. But given that I got paid like $9.50 to $10 an hour while I was there, and that in the 5 years that I was there, I got a total, I got 2 raises, right? The first raise was a whopping 10 cents. And the second raise came after, this was like my final year there. It was like, I left there in October. This was at the time probably like April or May. And my head chef came to me, he pulled me aside one day when after it was kind of slow, so he pulled me aside and was like, yo, by the way, I talked to the general manager, and we talked things over, and we're gonna be handing out raises, in a couple months. And I talked it over with him, and I got him to agree that you'll be the first one to get a raise. You'll be at the top of that list. And in my head, and in most people's minds, this would mean that I'm gonna get the first, cut of the share, which means there's no reason that I should get gypped on how much I get. So for all intents and purposes, this means that I'm getting a substantial raise, like $1 or $2 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Hell, maybe 3 or 4. I've been here 5 years. I was here opening week. I helped open this fucking place, and I've literally been here longer than any other person. No one else can do my job like I can. I got 90 cents.
Jesus.
It was at that point I had just given up all respect for that place and just started doing everything I could to just piss them off. Like, I just said, fuck you. I fucking... We had a rule against not using your phone. I used my phone as much as I possibly could. I fucking, I won't say everything that I did because some of it is what caused me to leave. Like, technically they fired me, but, I could have left whenever I wanted to. So, like, technically they did fire me, but, they only bitched out on that. There's a more to that I don't want to get into, You
ever wonder if that may have something to do with having a knife thrown at you?
See, no, it had nothing. Those two, the knife thing and me getting fired were like years apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, the knife thing was like year 2. I didn't get fired till year 5. But no, they got fed up with my ass, and frankly, the feeling was mutual. I was always a thorn in their side because I was like the one employee that they couldn't like get to conform to the nonsensical bullshit that they had everyone under. I was the only one drinking the Kool-Aid. You know, I was like the proverbial French resistance to their Nazi regime.
Oh my god, just once can I do one of these jobs without getting stuck on something.
You know, like despite their best efforts, I always put up a fight against anything they tried to, some bullshit they tried to enforce. So I was always at odds with the management. Which, in all honesty, I'm perfectly okay with, because they should have been shut down, and they should have been shut down, and the owner should have been in jail for reckless endangerment of the public and their employees. Like I said before, I'm damn sure, someone died as a result of eating there. It's just that they have enough money that they're able to cover it up. Because I saw the way that place ran. I saw the condition of where we kept the food, how we prepared the food, the people who were preparing the food, and the condition they were in, like hands after using the bathroom and shit like that. Just basic things that kind of spit in the eye of, basic, human decency. And it's like, there is no fucking way no one has died as a result of eating here. There's just no way. Like, I would have to, like, one thing that still irks me to this day, the thought of it just makes my stomach turn, is that chicken breasts that were starting to turn and go bad, the ones that were like really starting to stink and kind of had like a film on them, but were otherwise good on the inside, my chef would have me wash them in like the hose with the dishwashing area to get all the film and shit off, and then would make me marinate it so it would like kill anything on the outside before we used it.
That is horrifying.
I know. And it was all in an effort just to save a few dollars, because the owners gouged the budget. Like, they kept 99%, like 95% of the profits went directly into their pocket, and the other 5% was like scrounged out among the cost of the restaurants. That's why all of our equipment was, second or even third or even sometimes fourth hand,
they just
pieces.
Cheaped out on absolutely everything they possibly could.
Dude, we weren't even allowed breaks.
I'm pretty sure there's a law against that.
There is. You're supposed to give people 30-minute breaks every 4 hours and 1 hour breaks every 8 hours. I got 15-minute breaks every 12 hours.
Jesus.
And what's even worse about that is that they would purposefully... So, I wasn't allowed to go on break unless I was scheduled to work 12 or more hours. So, like 8 to 8. So that means that if I worked, say, 8 to 4, which was my normal schedule, I wasn't allowed a break, and I would get in trouble if I tried to take one.
Jesus.
To the point where they tried to bar me from using the bathroom because I would purposefully try to take as long as possible in there because they wouldn't give me a break otherwise.
That is just fucking insane that, like, that was allowed to happen.
And it wasn't even the management, like, being unreasonable. My head chef, like, low-key, subtly agreed with them. And the reason I know this is because one time he told me, he's like, I don't see why you have to use the bathroom so much, blah, 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 blah. I don't leave the line unless I have, like, explosive diarrhea. I'm like, you, sir, are disgusting, first of all. And secondly, I use the bathroom multiple times during a shift because, unlike you, I have normal bowel. My system is healthy. You're supposed to use the bathroom more than once every 8 to 10 hours, you fucking mongoloid. Like, oh, and I never even got to the point that started this whole thing, is that going back to the putting shit away, So not only was I lifting shit off the ground and putting away heavy boxes in that regard, but I would have to, the basement, it was, the basement, and the main kitchen for a majority of the time that I was there was 2 stories up. So I would have to run up 4 flights of stairs carrying, loads of boxes and foodstuffs that could weigh as much as 80 to 100 pounds at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why my body is racked with arthritis and joint pain, because I completely demolished, the shockwave system of my body at, a very young age.
And I'm assuming the only reason you didn't sue is probably because they could afford some very good lawyers.
Well, first of all, I had like $1,000 to my name at the time, and secondly, yes,
So, yeah, they would have basically destroyed you.
they had enough money to bribe a federal State Department twice, or 2 different federal State Departments on multiple occasions, and still maintain like half a dozen restaurants in the busiest part of the island.
I wonder if all the restaurants they have are like that, just like...
Yeah, pretty much. Though, at least the ones in their control, yeah. But most restaurants downtown, they're not that dirty, but they are run the same way. Very cutthroat, very, like harsh environment. Like the most like kitchens, like professional kitchens. Not only. Have you ever seen that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the gif of the 4 dudes curb stomping that one dude?
Yep.
That's basically like, if you take a screenshot of that, the 4 dudes, like if it was a meme, like the 4 dudes would be, the restaurant industry or the kitchen industry, and the dude on the ground would be moral human decency and ethical working standards.
Sometimes I'm kind of glad to be unemployed.
Yeah, no, and I chose this on purpose, consciously.
Well,
Before drugs and alcohol.
You couldn't have known it was going to be that much of a shit show when you first got in.
No, but plenty of people warned me. Plenty of people that did and knew what they were talking about, and I chose to ignore it.
This coming back full circle of you were not exactly a smart person back then.
I have never been a smart person. It's only been like the past few years that I've like really shapened up. Like in all regards.
Mm-hmm. Funny how that happens after the drugs and alcohol.
It's almost like drugs and alcohol aren't as bad as they say they are.
I mean, I wouldn't directly say that, but...
I would. Look, Oregon's onto something.
Oh, God. All I can say is to those watching, I can't control what you do, so fuck it, I guess.
Yeah. But, so that was just one place, and then I worked at this other place next door for about a month, and that was an absolute fucking shithole. Even though, okay, so it wasn't a shithole in the same regard that the other place was a shithole. This place was a shithole, not because it was dirty. No, this place was immaculately clean. Like, you could eat off the floor. It was so... it even smelled clean. It had a constant, smell of detergent in the air. All the wait staff wore perfectly pearl white uniforms, top and bottom. Like, white shoes, white pants, white shirt, white socks, obviously. White belt. Fucking. It's worth highlighting that this was the last restaurant we were talking about was kind of like on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like a 5-star Michelin, 3-star Michelin restaurant. Like just absolute top of the line. the last place was maybe like a 4.5, a 5. Like, it was nice and it was expensive, but obviously it wasn't anything near that nice. Granted, we don't have anything quite like that. I think the nicest one we have around here is like a 1 or 2 Michelin star. What even any Michelin stars alone like they're like the fucking like the Oscars
Mm-hmm.
of cooking. Like, if you have a Michelin star in your restaurant's name, like I've heard stories like chefs that own restaurants, like they'll have like 1 or 2 Michelin stars or even 3, and they'll lose a Michelin star or they'll lose all their Michelin stars and they kill themselves.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, it is like losing a Michelin star could mean losing your business. But anyway, so this place the second place that I went to, the one next door, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like top of the fucking line, this place was almost like a 7.5, maybe an 8 to some people. You know, I think the most expensive thing on our menu was a 36-ounce steak
Mm-hmm.
that had been dry aged for 55 days. And it costs, I believe, $165.
Holy shit.
And that's just for the steak, and that's not including tax, tip, and refreshments to go with it, like like a 3K wine bottle list. Like, they had an entire vault in the dining room just to store their wine. So like people when they dined there, because it was also, and a yachting marina.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like meals there could average like about $1,000 a party.
God damn.
On top of that, staying there was like $400 a night. So yeah, this place was like, it seeped with, it was like dripping with pretentious, hoity-toity fucking, like, imagine like Prince Blue Blood.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. And the people that worked there kind of had to follow a similar beat of a drum of sorts. They had to hold themselves to a much higher regard than a lot of their neighbors in town as far as restaurants go, because they're dealing with the richest of the rich in town. And there were other places like that in town. I won't name names because, like I said, I don't want to. I don't want to give too much away, especially with everything I've said. But it was fucking. That brings me to the girl that trained me. She was a massive fucking cunt. Like, oh, I hate her. Dude, she was so hot, but she was such an asshole. Like, mind you, I had, in the 7 months leading up to that point, I had gotten fired from my job of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That absolutely left me a mental, dumpster fire of sorts. Because it like stripped me of everything that I thought I knew and replaced it with a bunch of bullshit. So not only was I mentally kind of fucked up at that point, but I had just finished kicking my ex-wife out of the house. The one that I talked about yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And how I mentioned that her living here was a complete dumpster fire.
Yeah.
I won't go into it because it's really not important what happened, but let's just say she and my family are, well, not on speaking terms, but she's definitely not welcome around the house for a while. But anyway,
So needless to say, this was a very turbulent time in your life.
It was a very turbulent time in my life, and so, I had that going on. Then I got fired, and then I had to kick her out of the house, and then I was unemployed in the dead of winter, which for us is like all the businesses closed down for the summer or for the winter, because summer is our busy season with all the tourism and stuff. You in Canada understand what
Yeah.
so, so I was unemployed in the worst possible time to be unemployed, because if I run out of money, I'm fucked. Luckily I had you know, about $11,000 saved up, but I had to help pay for the mortgage every month because both my parents were also unemployed at the time due to separate circumstances. So by chance, all three of us, 3 out of the 4 people living in my house, became unemployed at the same time with no chance of finding work. One, due to a physical disability, because my dad was out on medical. My mom was in between jobs and frantically trying to find one. I just got fired, and my sister was the only one making any money. Luckily, I had enough to keep us afloat, but that ended up blowing all of my savings. That was like my life savings up to that point, just gone. And so, I was basically just a mental, physical, and financial just shell of my former self at that point. And so I took this job downtown, and the girl they were advertised they wanted a pastry chef. My former boss, the one that fired me or whatever, because I had since made up with him and put our differences aside, and we're still friends now. In fact, he recently left that restaurant and went to work somewhere else at a meatpacking facility or whatever. But anyway, so he put me in touch with these people, and we're like, hey, these guys are looking for a pastry chef. And I was like, I bet, because I dabbled in pastry. I could bake a little, I could make muffins and shit. The only thing that both he and they, and pretty much everyone that failed to say anything on, was the fact that, until, obviously it was already too late and I was already way in over my head, was the fact that they weren't looking just for a pastry chef. They were looking for a baker, someone who specifically was skilled in baking, and the reason that's so much emphasis on that or whatever is because basically what they wanted is they wanted someone who could bake, but they wanted someone who could bake and make things their standard, this very aristocratic standard. The slightest imperfection in the product would cause me to get chewed out. Like if there was a crack in the, we had these things called ganache cakes, which were basically, it was like chocolate lava cake, but except it wasn't lava, it wasn't liquid on the inside, it was just super, super moist. And if the surface wasn't completely smooth and glossed over, like if there was a single crack from the heat of the oven, I'd have to I'd hear it, like the fucking girl training me would just fucking bitch my ear off for 5 minutes.
They demanded absolute perfection and nothing less.
Exactly, because her thing was she would always rant and rave about people are paying so much money to eat here and blah, and it's like, I get that. I understand that people are paying absorbent amounts of money to eat our food, and I feel bad that maybe they're not up to their standard, but you know what, I can do one of two things. I can have this shit out in record time, or I can make it the best goddamn cake you ever fucking seen. I can't do both at the same time, and that wasn't good enough for them. And so this went on for about 2 or 3 weeks with me just if it was even slightly imperfect, I'd get yelled at. And if it was really kind of like if I fucked something up by accident, like I added too much of one thing, or, like let's say I added too much flour or not enough sugar or the wrong kind of vanilla or something, mundane, or I used the wrong kind of sugar. That's another thing to in a second with their fucking creme brulee. The girl would not only she'd start by pissing, fucking throwing a piss fit about it, saying how I don't listen and I'm a terrible employee and blah, 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 and this and that, and how I should listen more and be more careful and this and that. And then she would make me throw the whole thing in the trash and start over and then get pissed at me when things took too long afterwards.
God damn. How did you put up with that?
I was desperate. I had no other choice. It was that or be homeless.
Fair enough, I guess. But, like, holy shit.
And not just me, my whole family. You know, at least with that, if I, you know, should I get fired or whatever, I could at least collect unemployment. So it's like, you know, I had some fail safety, but it was still, you know, I really had no other choice. Same with, you know, the other place. I almost said the name by accident. Same with the other place. You know, it's like I had no choice in the matter. It's the only thing that was open to me at the time. But so that whole thing with the whole, you know, the girl being a bitch to me all the goddamn time, like literally every day, she was just in a pissy mood all fucking day. Because what they wanted, on top of being a good chef, is they wanted someone who could take the weight off of her. You know, what I didn't know is that, or what no one told me, is that she was overworked and, you know, pulling too many hours and taking on too many projects. So they needed someone to come in and take some of the load off of her, which was all well and good. But they wanted that person to be at the same level as her. Now, the other issue with that is that she was a professional baker. She went to the top culinary school in the entire country. It was like the Harvard University of cooking schools, and I almost went to it. You know, I was thoroughly thinking about it, but I just couldn't justify paying the $40,000 a year with a mandatory 4-year program and mandatory overseas schooling on top of it to graduate from there, because I was already getting that same level of education. The guy that trained me at school, the one that I mentioned last time, he was actually a former teacher at that college. He was a former baking professor. And so he taught me as much as he could. So I already learned, you know, in the time working with him, I had already taken 2 or 3 years at that college by proxy. You know, so I didn't need to go there. But she thought, and that's another thing about that school, is that particular school specifically, everyone who graduates there thinks they are the greatest chefs since Gordon, you know, since they think they're the next Gordon Ramsay. Every last one of them.
So they are all very much up their own ass.
They are the most arrogant bunch of assholes I have ever had the displeasure of trying to work with, as far as that category of chef goes. Because obviously there are chefs that are arrogant because they've been doing it for 50 plus years, and then there are chefs that are arrogant because they think that thing, because they went to a fancy cooking school, means that they're the next Gordon Ramsay just off the bat. Like one time I got into an argument with a guy. This guy was a total fucking tool. Now, do you know what fish sauce is?
Not really, if I'm being honest.
Okay, think soy sauce, right? But made with dried fermented fish. It's a Southeast Asian thing, like Philippines, Vietnam sort of thing. You know, he was trying to argue that Worcestershire sauce was a fish sauce because it had anchovies on the ingredient. I got into a full-blown shouting match with this guy because he was convinced that Worcestershire sauce was a fish sauce. And I'm like, dude, my step-grandmother, the one that I grew up with, you know, because my maternal grandmother on that side of the family died before I was born. In fact, both of them did, but that's a different story. So I grew up with a grandmother who was from the Philippines, and this man had the audacity to tell me that I was wrong. Fish sauces. I'm like, dude. Every time I went to my grandmother's house, there was always a pot of fish heads in the fucking stove. Like, do not tell me what fish sauce is and is not. I will fucking end you. So yeah, no, we are. So going back to the girl, fucking.
This is just letting you know this is gonna have to be the last story for this video. We're past 1:30.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm gonna wrap it up here in a second. And this isn't even all the places I've worked at. I still have like 2 or 3 places to talk about.
This is gonna end up being a fucking 10-part series, isn't it?
And this is just my work life. Never mind the island. Fucking. Yeah, so she was a total fucking cunt. And So she ended up bitching enough to the head chef that she got me moved out of her station, and to another part of the kitchen. But one more thing about her station is that the creme brulees that I mentioned before is that we had two kinds of sugars, like they're different grain size and shit.
Yep.
One of the chefs, one busy night, told me, like, she told me to use one specific kind of sugar for the creme brulee. And that basically involves sprinkling it on top and then blowtorching it so it caramelizes on top. Simple enough, not a big deal. And she wanted me to use that specific kind and would get very upset with me if I did not. And one time, it was like a super busy night, and I was just banging out desserts because I would also, on top of making them, I would, dress them and plate them to order. So I was doing creme brulee one night, and I couldn't find the sugar, or I ran out of it, or whatever the reason. So I had to use the other kind, or I wasn't sure what kind. I was using the kind she told me to, and then one of the other head chefs came in, because there was two. He came in and was like, no, don't use that kind. Use this other kind. And I tried to tell him that the girl wanted me to use that kind. He's like, I don't care. Just do what I say. And, he was very forceful. But he was actually one of the few nice guys I've met, and I'll get to him in a second. And so I used that kind, like you said. And the next day she came in because I guess she found out what happened. And she started giving me so much shit. She's like, I've told you. Do not use that sugar. Use this sugar and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know. I was using it. He told me. And she's like, I don't care what he said. Don't, do it again and blah, blah, blah. Dude, she was all down my fucking throat about that shit. And that's how it was every single day. I would have like full-on panic attacks just going into work because I knew I'd have to hear it from her. And what was even worse is that the station was like 5 feet by like 3 feet. So we were literally back to back, like with like 2 inches of space in between us.
Wow.
And she wore this chef's coat that hugged her body like a corset. So I could see every curve on her torso and her legs. And it's just like, you expect me to focus with you? Literally, I can feel the heat off your body on mine. We are so close together. I can literally feel her body heat radiating to me. She's expecting me to focus with her standing that close to me, breathing down my neck, both figuratively and literally, on top of the stress of working in this uppity restaurant. So she ended up getting me kicked out of her station and moved to the other, the fucking salad station. The only problem with the salad station is that I worked it before, but the guys that were training me didn't speak English.
Oh, God.
And so, after like a week of that, I went to the chef that I mentioned before, the one with the sugar thing, because he was actually really chill. I was like, yo, dude, I have some concerns. I want to, can I talk with you about it? And I told him, that I wanted to quit, that I was very upfront and mature about it. I'm like, look, I just don't think this is working out, blah, blah, blah. And he was very understanding and very sincere about it. And he's like, unfortunately, I'm not the one to talk to. You're going to want to talk to the other head chef. And he pointed me, I told him, and, so I told him, and the head chef, just completely blew me off. He was like, no, it's all in your head. Don't worry. Your age, I went through the same thing. We had this kind of heart-to-heart, and it was nice. But I could tell he was kind of just trying to get me out of his office, essentially. And then, like, a week after that, almost to the day, he calls me into his office, and he fucking fires me.
Wow.
And his exact words were, I don't think this is I don't think this is gonna work out. And in my head, I'm like, I literally told you that exact thing a week ago, and we could have avoided this whole thing.
Jesus.
And as I'm walking out of the office, I passed the other chef that I talked to before I talked to the other guy the last time, and he looked at me and he like kind of just like gave me this like, I knew this was gonna happen, but I'm, he's like, he like took me aside and like put his hand on my shoulder. He's like, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you. And he set me on my way. And I was like, damn, that's nice. Because it was kind of like he knew how bullshit the situation was, and he wanted to say something. I'm sure he wanted to say something about it, and I'm sure he did. He wanted to like you'd be like, hey, look, man, you can't do that to that kid. He, you know, he didn't deserve that, you know, type of thing. Like he tried to do the right thing and come to you ahead of time. And you just shit all over him like that, you know. So I appreciated that. And then like I found out like a couple months later, or whatever, he quit. And I have a sneaking suspicion it had something to do with me getting fired. He was probably, you know, just like he realized how bullshit everything was. So. But anyway, I've been keeping you guys long enough.
Yeah, I think we gotta wrap this one up. Thank you again for coming on and talking for another almost 2 hours.
Absolutely. I can do another 2 hours tomorrow if you want.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Alright, well, I mean, like I said, it's good to get it in now because for me, it's Thanksgiving come Friday.